The Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services, Education, and related agencies will come to order. Please, Secretary DeVos, that you're here with us today. Thank you for appearing to talk about your budget and to answer our questions. The 2019 budget request from the department is 11% less than the money that the Congress appropriated for FY18 in March. To the department's credit, you propose eliminating and consolidating programs that aren't working effectively, and we'll want to look at those very carefully with you. The budget also includes a $1 billion new competitive grant program for states and school districts to expand their choice programs. Certainly, I appreciate the perspective, the new look you've brought to the department. I agree that we should look at programs that are either inefficient or ineffective and prioritize programs that work the best for students. We have a shared priority, your department and the committee, certainly on STEM education. I'm interested in hearing more about how you think the department can support STEM education, including computer science education, and what we can do in schools around the country. And I think you'll find we'll be particularly interested in rural schools that may not be where we'd like them to be in that competitive environment. The omnibus included $50 million in dedicated funding for evidence-based STEM education programs. I want to certainly work with you, as our committee does, and the department to see how we can support and expand that effort. Also interested in working together to make post-secondary education more accessible and affordable for all students. 2 years ago, we were able to reinstate in our appropriating bill with the cooperation of our authorizers year-round Pell Grants. I just spent some time in Missouri at the end of the last college year talking about this being really the first summer where schools could plan and students could plan for year-round Pell. We think there are about 20,000 more students on campus this summer in Missouri, and about 1 million students nationwide, because they have the potential to continue to make the pattern that's working continue to work. You know, if you're paying your way through college, working your way through college, maybe the first person in your family that's either attending or trying to graduate from college, having a pattern that works makes a big difference. I went to college, first person in my family to graduate from college, frankly, as several people on this committee also are. And I went in 3 years and 3 summers. As I recall, it took 124 hours of credit to graduate. I had 124 hours of credit, not one extra credit or one extra day. The best way, of course, to keep college costs down is to get done. And I think a lot of schools have responded to year-round Pell by being sure that they have bachelor's degree programs that can realistically be completed if that's what a student wants to do in a shorter period of time. We looked at what happened with year-round Pell. Now, we increased the Pell Grant through our committee last year by 3% to $6,095. Your budget is still predicated on a top 2-semester Pell of $5,920. I think we will obviously continue the other number and look for the authorizing committee, the chairman and ranking member of which are on either side of me, to see their forward view on Pell Grants and other assistance programs. Many of the proposals in the budget you suggest eliminate programs. I think some of that can be done. Hope we can look at it carefully with you. But I think it's likely that the committee will look at the work we just completed, and the large formula grant programs are not likely to be eliminated, not likely to support the elimination of impact aid for federal property, though this administration would not be the first one to suggest that impact aid could be looked at in another way. There's some small targeted programs like Special Olympics and Arts and Education. That again, while the size maybe looks like they don't make a lot of impact, it would make a lot of impact if you eliminated them, and I think our committee would want to think long and hard before we did that. Finally, Secretary DeVos, I want to acknowledge your efforts to realign the Department of Education's role in the education system. I believe, as many of members of the Senate and House do, that decisions should, whenever they can, be made closer to students and their family and local school districts. That's where those decisions should be made. It's hard enough to make a decision in a state capital that impacts an entire state, as opposed to decisions in Washington, D.C. that impact the entire country. And your efforts to try to look for ways that more of those decisions can be made closer to where kids and their families are and where adult students are going to school is a wonderful thing for us to be talking about. Look forward to your testimony today and the discussion that will follow that. And I'm pleased now to recognize my good friend, Senator Murray. Let's talk about student safety to start with. Clearly, the idea that people go to elementary school and high school and any school anywhere with some sense that that bad things have happened in other schools and can happen in their school. What are we doing to try to minimize that likelihood? There was $22 million in the spending bill that you just got at the end of March for school safety. And what are you doing with that, and what ideas do you have of other programs that we might allow more flexibility to use those programs like Title II and Title IV as an example for school safety? The situation we're in now, every parent, every grandparent, every citizen sees that as unacceptable. What can we do to encourage school districts getting to the right place on safety of kids at school?
Thanks, Chairman, for that question. And I know we all share concern for students as they attend school each day, and feel for the parents who fear for their own children's safety. It is a focus of this administration. I know it's the focus of this body as well. And I would just broaden the question and the issue around the issue of the commission that the president has commenced and that I'm chairing to look at practices that are happening in states and in some communities. We have been charged with about 27 different items to look at and study and to raise up best practices on to share more broadly. I think one of the most important things we can do is help others learn about what has been effective in a local community or in a state and encourage them to adopt some of these measures in their own communities or in their own states. I know many state legislatures are debating this very topic and issue right now and are formulating plans and policies that are unique to their situations. We know there's no one-size-fits-all approach. We know that we have that our geographies and our people are very dispersed, and so we have to make sure that there are ample menu options to choose from for communities to consider ensuring that their school buildings, that their students are safe at school each day.
And are there things we can do with $22 million that you didn't have in the past for this purpose, or other programs to encourage those menu options to be looked at and funded when chosen?
Yes, indeed, and also the Title IV funds, for which there is great flexibility. Those all will be part of the forward-looking focus of this commission and the recommendations that will follow. And as states and communities develop their plans and programs, these funds will be available for proven solutions, ones that have been enacted in certain places that have proven effective. And we are there. We want to support those activities and ensure that each community is able to answer and address this situation unique to their circumstances.
I am sure others will come back to that, so let me move on quickly in the minute and 30 seconds I have left. On Pell Grants, you're talking about allowing Pell Grants to be used for certification programs and other programs that in the short-time programs in the past, we have not allowed Pell Grants to be used. I'm supportive of that, but I'd like to hear a little more about your thought as how those shorter-term certification programs would be defined and how Pell Grant eligibility would help prepare that workforce.
Well, thank you. We know that fewer and fewer students today are traditional students going from high school into a four-year college or university. And we know that there are many opportunities for students to pursue a shorter-term program, a certification, a credentialing that will get them into the workforce, into a meaningful path and track for whatever their interests might be. And so our proposal is to develop high-quality, short-term programs and do so in conjunction with Congress to put the appropriate guardrails around that, but acknowledging that students are very different today than they were 20 or 30 years ago, and to meet their needs and to meet the needs of our economy today, we can do so by recognizing and allowing for those kinds of flexibilities and innovations.